Barnstable police make an interesting drug bust, forward motion for safety on Main Street, and Senator Dan Wolf explains a pending health care bill on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, May 22nd, 2012. I'm Sarah Colvin. Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District Executive Director Elizabeth Werfbane is helping to plan a lavish event for Main Street this summer, the Long Table event. The invite-only event is designed to show off the culinary skills of Main Street's chefs. Werfbane went before the licensing authority.
We certainly have a lot of restaurants and a large variety of restaurants, and they're pretty fabulous. So that's a piece that we want to bring out there, and that's why we're having this Long Table event. Every restaurant is somehow taking part in this event. So we have 10 courses supplied by 10 different restaurants. Yeah,
they're going to bring the food in.
They're bringing the food, and we're catering it out of the back of the Beach Tree. There's a coffee shop that's going to be open. They're letting us use that for the catering.
Now, this area where the tables are going to be and the wine, is this part of the licensed premises of the Beach Tree?
We're going to go on a separate license, our own.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, this area, is it covered in their description of their license?
I don't think so. No, it's separate.
The board decided to hold off on making a decision until its next meeting. Barnstable police nab a Harwich woman for possession of crack cocaine. Chief of Police Paul McDonald spoke about the arrest on today's episode of Barnstable This Morning.
However, yesterday they did arrest a Lisa Redding. She's from Harwich, Mass. Miss Redding was on probation, and she was due to check into community corrections and meet with her parole officers. Part of her parole is she's remained drug and alcohol free. She's actually on parole from the state of Georgia. She met with her parole officer, Dave Miller, and she flunked her urine test. Mr. Middleton called us. We met with her. We did a quick follow-up investigation, and we found Miss Redding was in possession of 48 grams of crack cocaine, which is a significant amount of cocaine, which is a little bizarre. You know, why would an individual bring such a quantity of cocaine to meet with her parole officer? She's on parole for 7 years from the state of Georgia, which now means she has to be sent back to Georgia to finish her sentence. And then she has to come back to Massachusetts, and she's facing a minimum 5-year sentence here. So it's kind of extraordinary, pretty dumb thing what she did.
Chief McDonald told us the police also met recently with all the liquor license holders on Main Street in an effort to ensure safety in downtown Hyannis this summer.
If you look at Main Street Hyannis and you go from Main and Center all the way down to the Western Rotary, it's approximately a mile, and there are about 31 licensed establishments within that 1 mile radius. And what we want to do is get everybody together. We want them to have a successful summer. We want to explain to them exactly what we're going to do and what we expect from them, and then they can talk to us and what they can expect from us. So we're all working on the same page. You know, last summer was a relatively quiet summer. It was a good summer. Everybody seemed to do pretty well, and we want the same thing this year. We're on their side. We want to let them know that we're out there to work with them.
The chief told us he's hoping to set up an email tree amongst licensed establishments with the idea that once you've been banned from one bar, you're banned from them all.
Email tree where if you cause a problem at say Tommy Doyle's, you know, and Tommy Doyle's asks you to leave the club, you're not going to be allowed to go to any club along Main Street, you know, and this is going to have a dramatic effect on everybody, because if someone is banned from one club on Main Street, they're going to be banned from all the clubs on Main Street. So if their buddies all go out on a Saturday night, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, because they're not going to be allowed to go into any bars. You know, this is something we want to stay on top of. We tried it last year, at the end of last summer. It seemed to work pretty well for us. Because you have to remember, at the end of the night, at 1 o'clock in the morning, all these bars close at the exact same time. So if it's a busy Friday or Saturday night, you have somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 people all exiting these licensed establishments onto Main Street at the same time. So we want to make sure there are no problems. This usually only takes a small group of individuals who cause a problem.
The chief is hoping this proactive approach will keep things calm on Main Street this summer. The Greater Hyannis Civic Association is holding its annual meeting tonight. The group meets at the Hyannis Yacht Club adjacent to Veterans Beach. The meeting begins with the social hour from 5:15 to 6:30. The annual meeting begins at 6:30. Details are available online at hyanniscivic.com. An important health care bill is being discussed on Beacon Hill. Cape and Island State Senator Dan Wolf joined us on Barnstable this morning to fill us in on what's happening.
If you start with the premise, which I do, that there are sort of 5 basic pillars to health care. The first, most obvious that we're really faced with today is the cost. But then in addition to that, we look at complexity, we look at access, we look at transparency, and we look at outcomes. We did a bill in the Senate on the heels of the House doing a bill a couple weeks ago, which sort of takes on a couple of those in various degrees. I don't, you and I have talked about healthcare before. I think we need, in the long term, some real sweeping reforms, but I think it has to happen incrementally. And this bill that we did in the Senate last week, I think, takes a real good start at addressing some of those issues. What we've done with our access reform bill of 2006, with the health care bill that was passed back then, is, and again, you and I are repeating ourselves a little bit, but in my opinion, what we've done is we've sort of forced everybody to play in a system that is broken. And what we mean by that is that, costs are uneven, administrative complexity is overwhelming, especially to those that are most stressed out and in most need. Access, well, it's sort of access to insurance is there. Access to care and procedure is often not there. And so, I think while we have the best in the country, and 98.5% of our people are on one kind of health insurance plan or another, I think relative to all five pillars, we still have a ways to go. What this bill does specifically is it sort of looks at what's going on with cost, it looks at what's going on with data collection, it looks at what's going on with transparency. It sets up a new institute, which is called the Institute for Healthcare Finance and Policy, which really is sort of an Uber agency, which will have a huge responsibilities relative to data collection from all of the healthcare providers, looking at cost, trying to level the playing field and get our arms around how we can make transparency so that the consumer can understand where cost is lowest and where outcome is best. It allows for and helps set up what are called beacon ACOs, accountable care organizations, which will start to be a step away from the fee-for-service healthcare system into a more managed and integrated healthcare system. And I know this sounds like hopelessly complicated. I have a bill summary sitting in front of me. The bill summary is 40 pages. The bill itself was about 250 pages. So there's just a ton of detail and complexity in the bill, most of which I think does things or accomplishes things, if we can get it passed, that we would, that are consistent with what our long-term view is.
The bill has been passed by the Senate. It's now in conference committee. Senator Wolf expects it to remain in conference committee for some time. He did tell us what he expects to happen should it receive the governor's signature.
Well, a lot of the phase-in dates are 2014, some 2013, and some are immediate. So people can go online and try to make their way through this bill, because if they go to the .gov website, you can sort of see copies and summaries of what the bill is. And the phase-in for different parts of it would be over time, but pretty immediate on the governor's signature. It would set up the Institute for Healthcare Finance and Policy, and that group would come together and start organizing its work going forward. It does combine agencies, and we've seen that in transportation of late. We've seen other agencies try to come together. We saw it in the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So there's efficiency measures in this bill that sort of bring some agencies together to try to attack some of this. And, Sarah, this has been a difficult conversation because the complexity is so high that in 10 minutes it's very difficult to get our arms around any of this.
The Waterways Committee is meeting this evening. On the agenda, members will continue to discuss regulations and fees and a proposed change to the town ordinance on Chapter 40. The Waterways Committee meets at 6:30 in the Selectmen's Conference Room. Hybrids of the Singularity, an art exhibit by Joey Mars, opens this week. You can meet, greet, mix, and mingle with the artist at the opening reception this Thursday night. It's at the Hyannis Harbor Art Center at the Geyer Barn from 7 to 10 p.m. Mars's work combines styles of surrealism, modern expressionism, and graffiti. His work has been seen throughout the world, from the boardwalk shops of Venice Beach, California, to Indonesia, to the galleries and the new outdoor mural for the famous shop Therapy in Provincetown. The exhibit runs through June 10th. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.